Hey bass fishermen, what's your perception of how bass position along deep weed lines in summer? Do you picture them hugging the bottom? Perhaps buried within the grass edge, waiting in ambush? Well, it can be both ways, but have you considered this? In clear water, they're frequently suspended, either over the grass edge or just outside it, and often in schools. Furthermore, they're willing to take a Senko presented accordingly. Hi guys, welcome to my Hook and Look YouTube channel. I suggest you put on your mask and fins because we're going to dive in for an in-depth investigation of this productive pattern. Last year, in an effort to collect some underwater footage, I made a dive on this mid-Michigan inland lake. And as you can see, the water was experiencing an algae bloom and appeared to have a bit of a tannic color to it. I began at a depth of 10 feet, exploring a weedy flat covered in coontail and supporting a large population of bluegill. As I progressed towards the edge, where it quickly drops off into 20 feet plus, I began to see bass. And it didn't take me long to recognize that they were suspended along and outside the weed edge. The vegetation diminished at around a depth of 14 feet, and in one area I observed how a cloud of algae suspended out over the deep water as well. Moreover, there were smallmouths suspended over the cloud. My guess was the cloud hung over the thermocline, and the fish were staying above the cold water as well. Upon further investigation, I discovered there were a variety of species along the weed line. Walleye and carp were mixed in, but for the most part, they were positioned closer to the bottom. Nonetheless, it became increasingly clear that the bass were hanging in the upper water column, suspended in front of the weed line, and what happened next really sealed the deal. As I approached an inside turn, my jaw nearly dropped. Passing by, outside the weed edge, was a huge school of largemouths, suspended mid-column. No giants, but all were solid 2 to 3 pounders. I just sat still, held my camera in one place, and in awe, let the school pass by. They just kept coming and coming. I was thinking to myself, if I were to cast a Senko over the edge right now, it would never reach the bottom. Well, it wasn't until a year later that I had the opportunity to see if that pattern would prevail. I recently returned to the same weed line and wacky rigged a Senko and gave it a shot. Watching it go down, looking for any movement on that line. Twitch it a little bit. Bingo! I just knew a wacky rigged Senko would be the deal. The tantalizing shimmy, when it falls, seems to always produce, especially on bass suspended off a deep weed line. The Senko, and a flick it head. Get back out there, I know there's more. I'll watch my line. Just a steady fall. All of a sudden that line takes off. On the fall. That's why I'm using the high-vis flash green smackdown braid so you can watch the line and see it for any little pop on the way down, because most of the strikes are going to come on the initial fall. Got my old wacky tool, and I put an O-ring on this, like so. And this way, when you take the flick it, you don't go through the worm, you go through the O-ring. And you'll save yourself a lot of worms that way. When targeting deep weed lines, key in on points and inside turns where the drop is steeper. A tip that can be helpful is to toss a buoy out to mark the prime spots. This way, when you back off, you're more likely to present your cast accurately so that the lure descends right where the fish are suspending. The Senko's arms will be flapping like it's trying to fly. Yeah, that's a decent fish, I think. Ooh, yeah. That's a largemouth and a good one. Yeah. Phew. He wanted it working. That he did. But again, just right off that edge. Get off there, there you go. Senko. Just a green pumpkin and a buckeye flicket head. Pattern's working. It's always fun when a plan comes together, and I hope you found my experience beneficial as well. Don't forget, you can order Senkos and flicket heads from the links provided below my video description. So load up on them. It'll help support the cause, if you know what I mean. See you next time.